So, here I am. It has been quite a few days since I actually finished the book, but I am here doing the review. Now, I didn't actually think I was going to be doing a review for Beartown. Now, I absolutely love Beartown. I thought it was a great book, but I just didn't think I'd end up doing a review for it for some reason or other. I wasn't sure why. Maybe it was because I read it by ebook. Maybe I've just not done reviews for a while. Also, it was quite close to the end of the month and I didn't want to just repeat myself with my wrap up. But I decided I really enjoyed the book. It is worthy of a dedicated review. So here I am. So I'm not going to do a standard format of pros and cons and things like that, because as much as I enjoy that, Beartown was one of them books that I didn't really have any cons for. I had one or two, but nothing major, nothing worthy of a three pros and cons layout. So I'm just going to tell you quite a bit about it and how I felt reading it for the first time. So, if you don't know, Beartown is the story of a hockey town. The inhabitants of the entire town are all fascinated and in love with and are dedicated to the sport of ice hockey. Everyone loves it. I don't think there's one person in the town that doesn't love the hockey because it is such a big deal. And the story follows a young girl called Maya who is raped by one of the star players of the hockey team. And the story follows their lives. It follows different perspectives of each of the characters, showing how this event, this traumatic incident, this crime impacts the entire town. Because it is such a hockey town, the attack happens right before the grand final of a hockey game, and it splits the town up. They have to make a decision. Do we stand by this girl? Do we think she's telling the truth? Or is she lying? Because this hockey player is such a big deal. We all love him. We all support him. He would never do that. And the story really shows a divide between the town, as some really rally around Maya as she deals with the trauma, and some rally around the team and say, we do what's best for the team. We support the team. This girl is in the wrong. Either they say she's lying, or they're saying if she wasn't lying, then she asked for it. It's horrendous. It is so horrific. The story is horrific, but it is beautiful. Now, I have to say, I'm not really the type of person that likes a character building book. I am much more of a plot driven kind of reader. It tends to be why I read a lot of thrillers. Anything that's kind of character building, I think it's fine. It's all well and good, but after a while I get a bit bored learning about these people. I want to know what's going on. And this book kept me hooked for nearly 200 pages. I must admit, towards the end, I was getting a bit fed up of it. I was very close to just putting it down if the story didn't start soon. But Frederick Bachman spent the first 200 pages of the book making sure you knew every single character, making sure you knew everything about them. If you got quizzed on them, you would know them, because they felt as though they were a part of your life, because you had spent so much time learning about them. And I was just all for it. I was eating it up, and I really don't do that with books. And I think it is very, very largely to the fact that Frederick Bachman is a beautiful, beautiful writer. Like, I can't explain what it is. I don't know what it is about it. But this book has been translated, I think, from Swedish. I hope that's right. If I'm wrong, I'm very sorry. But I think it's been translated from Swedish. And still, the words that were on the page were beautiful. Like, he knows how to tell you something so horrific, tell you the deepest, darkest story in the world that would break your heart and make you feel sick, and make you sit there and listen to every single moment of it thinking, wow, this is amazing. Like, he doesn't devalue any of the trauma or incidents or anything like that. He just tells it in such a way that it's manageable. You can cope hearing these horrendous things because of how beautifully it's written. I don't like reading traumatic incidents. I think it's awful. Obviously, this book contains content warnings for rape, and he somehow discusses the rape and the trauma and all of that in such a beautiful way that I felt perfectly comfortable reading about it. And don't get me wrong, it was still awful to read. It was still really sad to read, but it was beautiful at the same time. The wording that he did, it was just great. Like, I can't really express in a way. I wish I had a physical copy to be able to read out what particularly was so great, but I read it via ebook. I can't do that. But I thought it was a really, really beautiful way of writing that took something so traumatic and got the trauma across in such a way that it didn't physically pain you to read. It didn't make me think, I don't want to read this anymore because I'm uncomfortable. And I thought how genius it was and how much of a talented writer he was to actually get that across. And I think that is so, so good. And before that even really got into the story, he spent 200 pages giving us the lives of these characters in, again, such a beautiful way, because it's something I'm not really interested in. Personally, I think it went on maybe like 50 pages too long, just because, again, I'm very plot driven. Anyone that loves reading character-based books and character building and world building books, you will absolutely love this book. It was fantastic. And for me, as a plot driven reader, I still thought it was fantastic. And I think, yeah, as I said, it just went on a tiny bit too long, but I still thought it was great, so it really isn't that big of a deal. And some of the characters were, I can't even describe how beautiful and wonderful they are. One character that really stands out for me, who I absolutely adore, is Ramona. Now, if anyone hasn't read the book, Ramona basically owns a pub. And she, when the incident goes down, stands by the young girl Maya. And she comes under a lot of fire for it. She really does. And she doesn't care. She says, I don't care what you do to me, what you do to my business. I don't care what power you have. I am standing by this girl, and I am standing by this family, because this is what I believe. And I think her character was just so brave and strong, and she didn't take any crap from anybody. And she was just one of those characters that you have to love, because she's kind of like the old lady that knows life, and you go to her for the stories. Like, I love her. She was such a good character in the story, and I want a book based on her. Honestly, I really, really do. In addition to that, I also love the main girl Maya and her best friend Anna and their relationship. I just thought they had such a strong bond. In the hours or in the days after the rape occurred, Anna didn't even need to hear it from Maya's lips to know what happened. She could just see in her best friend's eyes that something was wrong, and she was there for her in an instant. She did not leave her side for 1 minute. The only time she left Maya's side was when Maya's parents said, we need to spend time as a family, will you please go home? And that is it. Every other time she was back there. And they were such a good friendship. It was so beautiful to see, because they were truly best friends. They bickered, they argued, because friends do, and it was really real how some sort of bickering went across. But the fact that they came together when it mattered, and how wonderful that friendship was, it touched me. It really touched my heart. And it reminds me of the friendships I have with some of my closest friends, that no matter what you go through, if you need me, I'm there. And if I need them, they are there. And that is all that matters. No matter what you've been through in the past, you need me, I am there. And that friendship, that was something else. It was something else. Now, one of the things I absolutely loved about this book was how it dealt with the trauma, because it dealt with it in such a poignant way, and it was so well done, because it didn't overdo it. It didn't make it very dramatic. It dealt with the trauma in such a respectful manner that that it was okay to read it and it was okay to feel certain ways because you wasn't made to feel a certain way. You got given so many different perspectives of how different people of how different people felt. It was really interesting to read and really fascinating to read. And also it did it so well because it showed it from different perspectives. It showed the trauma the young girl had because it showed how she felt in the immediate hours and then how she dealt with it and how she decided this is not going to control me. I am not being the victim of this situation anymore because I want to live my life. And I thought that was so well done. And it also showed the trauma of the people it indirectly affected. It showed the trauma of her parents who felt like failures and who felt angry and sad because they couldn't protect their child from something. It shows the trauma from people that were not involved. They don't even know the people, but because they know the story and because of how it's affected the town, it's affected them because they know something's gone on and they are now forced to pick a side, and it shows the trauma of that. It was just so well done. The amount of different perspectives and how they dealt with the trauma that wasn't even theirs for a lot of them. They just got this trauma forced onto them because they had to make an impossible decision. And it was just so well written and I loved it. That is one of the main things you need to take away from this. It is so well written and it is worth the read just for the writing. Now, the last thing I really want to talk about is kind of the social message, and it has a lot of message on, it has so many messages on rape culture, homophobia, and sports culture, all things like that. But I think one of the big things I took away from it was that you never know who you really can trust. Not in a way of you wouldn't have expected this character to rape somebody, because obviously I don't think you expect it from anybody, but it had that perspective, but also the perspective of some of the family of the young girl's best friends, some of their closest people sided with the rapist and decided that this girl, who they've known for years, who they have seen and loved and cared for, they sided with the rapist because it's easier to do that, because the sport and the town is much more important than this one girl. And these people who the family trusted took their trust and said, no, I'm siding with these instead. And also, likewise, some of this boy's best friends, some of his closest friends, could see it in his eyes. Because of that close friendship, they knew what he had done, and they said, no, I can't stand by you. So some of the people who you trust wholeheartedly prove that they sometimes are not worth it, and some people who you think, I can't trust them, I don't think they will ever stand by me, can. And this story really took that perspective of judging people based on the company they keep, or trusting the wrong people because you think loyalty might mean something to them, where sometimes it doesn't. A lot of people are out to protect themselves, and it took that and really inspected that, and it did it so well. I can't compliment this book enough. My only criticism of it is that the character description, the character building, maybe went on for about 50 pages too long. That is nothing, because that extra 50 pages, whilst it wasn't really for me, for somebody else it might be everything. And that last 50 pages, even though it wasn't really for me, I was happy to deal with it because I got the story afterwards. So 100% would definitely recommend, because obviously it's quite a heavy themes, heavy topics. It's got a lot going on with it. But if you feel able to read something like this, I would definitely recommend giving it a go, because I don't think you would regret it. So that is my review. That is all from me. Hopefully you enjoyed the review and it gave you a bit of a perspective on this book. If you've read the book, let me know what you think of it down below, because I really would like to get some other people's opinions, and I just found out it has a sequel, so I want to read that as well. So that is it from me. I post every Monday, Wednesday and Saturday, and then intermittently throughout the week. So until next time, I will see you later.